So I last discussed the legacy of Akbar in Mughal India, and uh, then I returned to the famous Taj Mahal. Let's have a little discussion of that. So Akbar's son Salim rebelled against his father in 1601. After 4 years, he takes power and takes on the name Jahangir. He marries a 34-year-old widow from Safavid Persia who he named Nur Jahan. Nur Jahan has her niece Mumtaz Mahal and marries Jahangir's son Shah Jahan. Mumtaz Mahal bore him 14 children before her death in childbirth at the age of 39, and he immortalized her by constructing her magnificent tomb, the Taj Mahal. So here's the picture of her. These are very beautiful pictures, and here is the very beautiful Taj Mahal. So that's the short story of it. And so again, just think about historically the legacy and the incorporation of everything we've talked about, and then what we're seeing here in Mughal India. Okay, and yeah, that's really what I want to say right there on this. So I'm just doing a really brief overview on this very big important topic, and I'm going to really end with talking about the Mughals here and the decline with Aurangzeb. So after Shah Jahan, the Mughal Empire was greatly expanded, but it was in chaos, and there was much bloodshed by his son Aurangzeb in 1707. Here was partially the problem. Aurangzeb is kind of seen as or is often viewed as the antithesis of Akbar. Well, Akbar was trying to be more to integrate the empire, to make Muslims and Hindus more unified, and to the point of actually being so liberal on his Islam that he actually totally tilted to creating his own religion, which didn't last very long. But Aurangzeb becomes a much more conservative Muslim, and he wants to actually reinstate much more orthodox, at least in his view, Islam at the expense of Hindus. And so what he does is he reinstitutes the jizya tax, the tax put on non-Muslims. Well, people already don't like having a tax or have to pay something that somebody else doesn't have to pay for. But it's one thing when you kind of come in and this is kind of the norm. But then someone takes that away and you try to bring it back. The resentment is going to be pretty bad. People are going to say, well, so what? Why now? Now you're coming back with this tax. And so that didn't help. Also, Hindus were not purged from the government, but they were made unequal, and they were, he favored putting Muslims in higher positions at the expense of Hindus. This ultimately led to a lot of internal strife within his empire, and so his legacy gets more complicated there. And so again, we go back to the legacies of Christian and Muslim rulers, and relations between minorities and the ruling class and the ruled. And we see a wide range of things. This is the case here. Ultimately, who's going to start coming in and becoming a major player into India at the expense of the Mughals and the rest of India is going to be the British Empire, which I'm not going to talk about here, but that's just that's the next segment of Take 107, okay, of World Civ. So that's all I really had to say about the Mughals for now. I hope it at least kind of shows you where to see, one, the continuous legacy of the Mughals, the Mongols, sorry, and the Turkic peoples, and the vast expansion in various ways in which Islamic empires ruled. And also just how this affects modern Indian politics, just for example, right now as well when we talk about India. So, which leads me to want to talk about one more aspect of India and Indian religion and culture, and then I'll end here, is to talk about Guru Nanak and the Sikhs, Sikhsdom, predominantly from the area of Punjab province in India, okay? Especially depending on where you live, I think Yuba City in California has the largest Punjabi Sikh population next to the country of Punjab itself in India. And so California and in Central Valley has many Punjabis. Not all have the turban and the beard, but a good chunk of them do. And many people think that they're Muslim. I'll address that in a second as well. But they're not Muslim. And they're not Hindus. They're Sikhs. Okay? So the founder, Guru Nanak, and by the way, this is a very recent religion. Out of all the religions, I mean, relative to world religions, we're talking about 15th, 16th century here, really 16th century. He was a Hindu mystic he lived in an area which is now Pakistan. Okay? But he synthesized Hinduism and Islam together. And that's a very oversimplification of explaining this, but I just want to point this out. And he shared these mystical ideas, these praises of God, and the conditions that they had to face with Muslims and Hindus became complicated. The idea was this would be a synthesizing, for a better world kind of thing of Hindus and Muslims. But really what ends up happening is they face a lot of persecution and conflict with Hindus and Muslims as being, another different faith. For one, they believe in the oneness of God very explicitly, such as Muslims. They have ikumkar, one God. Okay? They're greeting hello and goodbye, Sat Sri Akal, basically like the God is everything. They're very much have that in their language. There is this one powerful God, and not depicted in forms of idols. Okay, for example, no caste system. But when you examine their religion, I think from an outside observer, it would feel very Hindu-ish, especially if you go to the Gurdwara and you hear the tablas and you see some of the rituals. Again, from a very outsider point of view, but then you see it does have its own unique way. Essentially, they had 10 gurus, and by the time you get to the 10th, Guru Gobind Singh is a major influence on the direction that Sikhism was to take in its modern form, because they were persecuted a lot, and he essentially kind of reinvigorated the Sikh community to defend themselves and to create a more martial legacy, where they have a right to defend themselves and to defend people who are in a weaker position. And so he had the order of the 5Ks, as they're called, but they'd have the uncut hair and beard with the cone inside the turban. They have the bracelet that you may see, often worn even by Sikhs who don't wear the traditional garb, and the kirpan, the symbolic knife in the a kind of special type of underwear. I might have left out some of them, and so here you really have these two as the legacy is really Guru Nanak, the founder, and Guru Gobind Singh as the molder and shaper of modern Sikhism as we know it. This is all very overly simplified. I just want to introduce you to them. The Guru Granth Sahib is their holy book. It's considered the last guru, and you can buy copies and read it. I have some of the Guru Granth Sahib. It's mainly just in praise of God. Many, like as I mentioned, many people think that they're Muslim, and every time there is a terrorist attack, not only do Muslims in general feel attacked by society, But I remember after 9/11, there were many attacks, literally physical attacks on Sikhs who have no relation to any of uh, these conflicts. And so I just thought I'd point that out. But they have their own interesting story and legacy. I encourage you to explore. And again, they're not Hindu or Muslim. You know, even Gandhi, there are issues with Gandhi. Gandhi tried to essentially state they are Hindus. And they were like, no, we are Sikhs. And so, just as a side note, Gandhi's not loved by everybody in India, and his legacy is a little bit more mixed depending on who you talk to in the greater part of the Indian world for various sets of reasons. Here is their holy temple, golden temple at Amritsar, and here's a picture kind of showing you where it's at, located Punjab, and you can see it's closer to Pakistan, which was a part of India before. And anyways, that's all I will say for this section, and I'm hoping that even though it was very brief and choppy, that it gives you things to go on if you want to explore more, and I always hope that you do.